Good morning, Tab, and welcome to another episode of the Health Nugget. We are indeed thankful that you are here. And today I want to talk about a topic that may involve all of us at some time in the not too distant future. And I've brought along with me my favorite social worker at Tabernacle. Don't get jealous, Joanne, and other social workers, but we're happy to have Sister Marlene Jairam to talk to us this morning about some challenges for people facing Alzheimer's disease. Not very long ago, my aunt was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease and has been a very, very stressful problem for our family. And recently, she has gone to end stage Alzheimer's, where she doesn't walk and hardly eats anymore. And last 2 weeks ago, we thought she was actually going to die, but she has overcome that to some degree for a short while. And I thought it good to discuss this issue this morning. So, and I want to look at it primarily from the point of view of caregivers, what we should do to help our family members when this particular problem comes up, and how, as church members, we can reach out to other caregivers who are going through the challenging time. So, Sister Jairam, could you tell us a little bit about how caregivers can cope with this particular challenge and including what they face and what we need to do?
Yeah. Okay, so before we get into that, I'm going to go briefly into something real quick with dementia and Alzheimer's. So just think about seasons. You know, we have different seasons in our lives. We go through different developmental stages. So think about our life as seasons. So the winter, you might have loneliness, you might have some depression, heartbreak, sadness. Springtime, you know, everything's hopeful, everything's a new beginning, brand new. Summertime, you know, you have signs of growth. You need probably more reassurance because everything's changing. And then the fall, you have your successes and your failures and things that you have to achieve. So Alzheimer's is a disease that tends to happen to people in mid-60s, sometimes later. There are some stages, sometimes it's a little earlier. So those are early signs of dementia and Alzheimer's. But you also have rare occasions when it happens at age 30, which a lot of people don't realize. So, and it's usually a gradual process. It's not like overnight you say, oh, this is what's happening. No, it's something that's usually gradual, and sometimes it takes a lot for caregivers and even the patient themselves to realize that they're suffering with this. So let's take a little look at far as who's affected by it and what happens. So you have a lot of caregivers, and most of our caregivers we know are actually middle-aged themselves. So, and we tend to call them the sandwich generation. And why we say the sandwich generation is because a lot of them are dealing with their own children, and then they're caring for more than likely their parent. The majority of caregivers we know are also females. It's sad to say most of the household incomes are like 50 grand or less. So you have the lowest socioeconomics, you're trying to care for your child, and you're trying to care for someone who is suffering with dementia or Alzheimer's. So basically, that's a burden on its own. So caregivers tend to have overwhelming challenges, economical, they also have emotional, you know, it's a lot going on with them. So when you're thinking about Alzheimer's, we know that that's usually said to be one of the slow deaths, right? So the person is fading away right before your eyes. They don't tend to realize who you are, or go ahead.
That's what's happening to that's exactly what's happening to my aunt right now, and it's really painful. She doesn't even know me anymore. You know, it's very, very painful.
Yes, and so caregivers tend to get frustrated, and you're going to go through the different stages of grief. I'm just going to touch really quick because I know we're out of time. We're good? Okay. So the stages of grief, we have the denial, the anger, guilt, bargaining, sadness, depression, acceptance. And as you're dealing with individuals who are going through dementia or Alzheimer's, you're going to be going through that process of grief, okay? Because, like I stated, it's a slow death. They're no longer who they were. Okay, so it's important for caregivers to understand that with the denial, it's because you're still hoping that person will get better. You know, you're hoping that things will turn around. For the anger, you're frustrated. You know, you don't know what to do, or you're resentful because maybe you don't have all the support that you need, or maybe you have siblings and they're not pitching in like you think they should. You know, those things happen.
That's a big fight in my family right now.
And then the guilt of it, because you're feeling bad, you're frustrated, you're upset, and then you're feeling bad because you're feeling those feelings. You know, because you're having those feelings and you're like, I shouldn't be having those feelings. But it's totally normal, and those things happen. And then the acceptance stage. That's just learning how to deal with things, how to understand, how to change your life around as well, because it does affect your lifestyle as well. So let's look at some tips to manage stress.
We definitely need those, because I find that the stress of this disease on caregivers is really, really tough. And I'm really listening up to what you have to say on these tips that you're going to give us this morning.
Okay. So the first thing I would say is know what's out there for you. Know your resources in your community. What is available to you? Find help. Get support. If someone says, can I do something for you, don't say no. Say, okay, yes, how about you go get the groceries for me? Make a calendar. You can actually have a calendar online if you want.
Good point, good point.
And this one does it this day, this one does it that day, or what are the things that need to be done in order to alleviate some of the stress off of that person who's the primary person, because you have a primary person and then you have other people who could also assist. So that would be helpful as well. In our church, we're blessed. We have my sister Michelle, who works for patients, the Jewish Home, Miami Jewish Home Centers, and they deal a lot with that. We also have Joanne's sister Rachel, who also deals with that population. But I will tell you that we do have a shortage when it comes to individuals in geriatrics. For social workers, that's like 4%. Nurses, 2%, you know, so young people, if you're looking for a career, especially in South Florida, this is a good area to go into, because in 2050, if you realize people are living longer, so it's estimated that we're going to need additional people in those areas. So another thing is relaxation techniques. We tend to take care of everyone else, and we sometimes forget ourselves. But it's very important. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're going to have a shorter fuse. I know when I'm stressed, I'm like snapping, which is not good. But when you take time to even take a long walk, maybe a hot bath, I like the spa. What do you like?
I like to walk.
Okay, so walking. So you have to get some time for yourself to just get out there and take a minute, take a breather. Get moving. We know that exercise is important. Dancing is also important. Yes.
Definitely a good exercise.
And even for the patient. So you could probably do that with them as well for the person who's going through it. You know why it's important? Because you're learning different steps. Like, let's say the waltz, you have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and they have to move certain ways. So they're remembering the steps. So even though it's something fun to do, it's also something that you could do together.
My aunt used to like to dance a lot, but now obviously she can't move anymore, so we're stuck.
Okay. So then play music. Play the type of music that that person used to like to hear as well. And then find time for yourself. That is so vital, so important, and a lot of us don't do it. I will say, when you're going through this process, it is important for you to face your emotions, face your feelings, and know that whether it's positive or negative feelings, that it's okay to have those feelings, and that it's common to do it as well. And prepare yourself for the loss, because you're going to feel that grieving throughout. So it's going to come in different spurts. It's not like someone actually physically dying and then you go through the grieving process. You're going to have a grieving process here. You might be okay. for a month or a couple of months, and then you're going to have another grieving process. So it's important for you to acknowledge that as well. And then educate yourself about the disease and what happens and what different things are there that you could do as well. And of course, just like any grieving process, it's going to be different for everyone. So while I might be able to handle something one way, you might not be able, or vice versa. So it's okay not to be okay. And I think a lot of times we don't tell people that. It's okay to be angry with the person, not to take out the anger on the person, but to be angry. And maintain a sense of humor. Yes, you're going through something. Yes, you're going through something, but you need to maintain a sense of humor. We know that even in the medical field, doc, a lot of times this person's mental state or mindset does a lot as far as their health. Take care of yourself as far as eating, sleeping, exercising, getting plenty of rest. One good thing, too, is financial planning, the legal things. You want to try to do all of that up front, like maybe in the early stages, as you see things are progressing. So that way the individual also has a say in it. There's a lot of legal documents that you get online that you don't necessarily need an attorney for, but you can use an attorney if you think that would be a better fit for you and your family and your loved one. And as I stated, just become aware. Alzheimer's Association has a lot of services and different things that they offer as well. And then Psalms chapter 1 teaches us that by putting our delight in the study of the ways of the Lord, that we will be like a tree rooted by the streams and produce good fruit. I do want to leave with you the Alzheimer's Association. They have a 24/7 hotline, which is 800-272-3900. And also there is a website that you can go on to get additional help.
Thank you so very much for this information today. I know it was a blessing to me, and I believe it will be a blessing to everyone who is listening. I want to thank you all guys for joining in on our Health Nugget today. Next week, we'll be back, and Dr. Dwight Salmon will be talking to us about dental care. So hopefully you can be with us next week for our next Health Nugget. God bless.